Hello and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV with me, Meoni. This time another lodestone post. Quite interestingly, they've decided to do another post regarding PvP balance adjustments. This is from Yoshi P himself. It's quite a lengthy one, as you can see. We're going to read through this because I'm quite curious, but Naoki Yoshida felt it necessary to discuss the PvP balance changes. As you probably saw in 6.11a, a bunch of things were changed, including, you know, a lot of the more favorite jobs in PvP, including Black Mage. So I think a lot of people maybe sort of reacted like, well, Yoshi P obviously changed this because I play it. He plays it, rather. So I think it's more of like an addressment of like addressing how they actually came to these decisions. So it just shows you how much they care about PvP, which is awesome. Really, really good to see them always wanting to progress and go forth. Anyway, let's read this. Hello, this is Naoki Yoshida, producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. Patch 6.11a introduced an assortment of balance adjustments to several jobs in PvP, most notably for Black Mage. We've received a great deal of feedback regarding these changes, and in hindsight, I believe we went too far with our adjustments. For this, I apologize, he says. Please know that we have plans to address these concerns in patch 6.15, which will be released on Tuesday, June the 7th. So there we go. We actually officially have 6.15 release date here for June the 7th. A lot of people predicted that. That's for Hildebrand and the custom delivery client and stuff like that. So just around the corner, literally. He says, in addition, we have received questions concerning how balance adjustments are decided, how often they occur, and when players can expect them for Frontline. I will address each of these questions below. So, firstly, they want to talk about crystalline conflict, balance changes, details and schedule. Yoshi P says, I'm delighted that so many players, including those who previously distanced themselves from PvP gameplay, myself included, I continue, have been enjoying crystalline conflict. Since its release in patch 6.1, we have been monitoring certain datasets to implement balance changes and provide improvements to this new mode of PvP. He says in brackets, I will address balance changes made to Frontline in a separate section below. Firstly then, job win rates in matches between players of differing jobs. We keep a constant record of win rates for matches where players of differing jobs compete against each other. Ideally, we strive to keep the win rates for each job at 50% in such matches. Furthermore, we separate these statistics into categories such as casual, ranked, and expert matches to better understand gameplay trends across various subgroups. When a particular job starts showing win rates much higher than 50%, we investigate the cause while also taking into account player feedback. If we discover an overpowered action, or perhaps a combination of actions creating a potentially unfair advantage, we implement balance changes in a way that preserves the distinctive characteristics of the job in question. Jobs with win rates much lower than 50% are treated similarly. Instead of simply taking a weak job and making it stronger, we strive to enhance its unique abilities and attributes in a way that organically improves its chances of victory. At the end of the day, he says, we hope that PvP matches are decided based on players' knowledge of jobs, both their own and their opponents', their strategic execution of both offense and defensive actions, and their ability to understand and adapt to teams with which they are randomly matched. Going forward, we will continue adjusting our system as necessary to provide as balanced an experience as possible. Then he continues with job usage rates. He says another factor we keep in mind when evaluating balance is the rate at which players choose certain jobs over others. Like win rates, we separate these statistics by category and only consider data for matches where players of differing jobs compete against each other. However, unlike our stance on win rates, our goal is not to equalize the rate of job usage. We believe players should choose their jobs based on a personal preference, which naturally fluctuates. Instead, what we look for on job usage rates are instances of extreme bias that may indicate a particular job is easier or harder to use, which in turn may implicate a greater underlying issue. When a certain job seems significantly more or less palatable to players, we both review player feedback and engage in matches ourselves to investigate any issues present in action balance or the job's fundamental mechanics. As previously stated, we try to preserve each job's individuality when applying changes, such as introducing comparable weaknesses to jobs that seem distinctly advantaged, while bolstering those that may need support. And the third section, balance change schedule. As we received overwhelmingly positive feedback for Crystalline Conflict upon its release in 6.1, we wanted to implement any and all necessary balance changes as soon as possible in order to further optimize our players' experiences. However, as Final Fantasy XIV is a project that requires constant and simultaneous development of a wide array of content, our patch release schedule is both incredibly detailed and decided far in advance. For instance, players may have received patch 6.11a on Tuesday, May the 24th, but our developers had to finish their adjustments and implementation by Friday, May the 6th. In reality, this deadline was extended at day to a day, bit of a typo there, to Saturday, May the 7th, as our developers were insistent upon working down to the wire to deliver the most comprehensive update possible within the given time restrictions. Accordingly, the balance changes made to PvP job actions in 6.11a were based on data and player feedback received by Friday, May the 6th, and any issues that have arisen will be addressed in the next update. As developers, we have an ever-present desire to adjust and correct even the smallest issues as soon as they occur. However, reality dictates that any changes we make need approximately 2 weeks for debugging, translation and implementation checks, patch note creation, changes to the job guide, and much more. The changes made in 6.11a were particularly extensive and implemented on relatively short notice, causing many players to lament their inability to enjoy and explore the nuances of Crystalline Conflict in the state it was released. Reflecting on this, we acknowledge that waiting to release all necessary adjustments in 6.15 would have been a better solution than hurrying to release an intermediary patch as we did. By waiting until 6.15, we would have had more time to verify and test our prospective changes, ensuring they resulted in balanced gameplay. As it is, the only changes we plan to make in PvP in 6.15 are those addressing functionality issues discovered after the 6.11a deadline, and adjustments to Black Mage job actions, which I will explain below. We will keep this in mind for future updates and strive to deliver the most stable and effective balance changes we can going forward. So far, just in summary, this explains their whole approach to things and how basically, due to the popularity of the content, basically they're trying to push as much responsiveness on their end as possible, but it was a bit of an oversight to try and push it as hard as they did. So it looks like they might scale this stuff down to have more concise decision-making time rather than try and rush things. But this is probably reflective of like the fact that there are 2 PvP seasons in one patch cycle until 6.2, for example. There's supposed to be 2 seasons. 2 ranked seasons, but there'll also be series PvP for the entire patch duration. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of focus on PvP, and the popularity's probably pushed it over the edge. But it's an easy mistake to make, honestly, especially with all of the other concerns in the company. It's, a lot of stuff gets developed for this game, so it's understandable in my opinion. Anyway, let's continue. So point 4. Regarding recent changes to the Black Mage job. By means of both the data explained in points 1 and 2 and extensive player feedback, we became aware that, as of Friday, May the 6th, the Black Mage was exhibiting the lowest usage and win rates across all player categories. As a point of reference, the Black Mage experienced victory 14% less than the job with the highest win rates. As this issue was discovered by the deadline elaborated in point 3, changes to strengthen this job were deemed difficult to play were promptly incorporated into patch 611A. In the following days, I would have the distinct pleasure of battling against many of you in my personal investigation of the Black Mage's issues. As many of you know, the Black Mage's overall fighting style is reliant on spellcasting, specializing in area of effect attacks, damage over time, and limiting opponent movement. While this job has the potential to inflict extensive damage, particularly during limit breaks in many cases, its relatively low health and sparse methods of self-defense make it difficult for the Black Mage to execute said limit breaks before being struck down by melee combatants. Having said this, my personal impression after countless Crystalline Conflict matches is that in the hands of a skilled PvP combatant, the Black Mage has more than enough potential to excel in battle. These impressions, however, were only gleaned after 611A had been sent off for finishing touches. What should have been minor changes were released as major changes, which ultimately resulted in an overpowered Black Mage. By adding a heavy effect, giving paradox multiple charges, and otherwise decreasing casting times, the Black Mage was granted an undeniable advantage. While we intend to revert in a future patch, we will also be reducing the level of defense granted by Limit Break Action Soul Resonance. I would like to emphasize that the Black Mage is experiencing no preferential treatment by being specially mentioned here. We evaluate action balance for all jobs with a similarly scrutinizing gaze. I only present this instance as an example as it was particularly inconvenient and frustrating to many players, and I am truly sorry for the trouble we have caused. So there we go. So that addresses the Black Mage problem, which, you know, it's simple to say. More time to actually collate information and less knee-jerk reactions is probably going to result to better patches in the future so that we don't have something like this happening. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, like we said, though. Right, so let's have a look at the future stuff about Frontline. Balance adjustments to jobs in Frontline. This is Yoshi P again. As I mentioned above, focusing our resources on balance adjustments to Crystalline Conflict for new PvP mode has regretfully resulted in certain jobs being over or underrepresented in Frontline. It has taken us more time than we hoped, but adjustments to Frontline will resume in 6.18. The following changes are currently planned. Just as a reminder, 6.18 is when cross data center is supposed to be coming in. So I'll continue here. Adjustments to damage dealt and taken by all jobs in Frontline. In light of the fact that the number of participants and the length of matches vary greatly between Crystalline Conflict and Frontline, Frontline-specific adjustments will be made to damage dealt and taken by all jobs to bring them in line and better balance matches. Point 2. Adjustments to frequency of limit break usage. As with a first adjustment, the rate at which limit breaks can be used should be appropriate to the number of participants on the field, so we're working towards bringing their frequency of use in line as well. We've already begun making the above changes to ensure that they can be implemented in 6.18, but we have more specific changes in mind for Frontline in 6.2 and beyond, including functionality allowing us to make further Frontline specific adjustments. Our aim for not only these changes but all changes we make to Frontline in the future is to preserve what makes the mode so special. Casual, large-scale battles, where players have the freedom to change their job at will, no strict role requirements involved. I would like to apologize once more for how long it has taken us to address the state of balance in Frontline. Though it will take time, we plan to review play records, and once we have decided on appropriate adjustments, have them tested and implemented. Your continued patience is greatly appreciated. Our miscalculation in the PvP balance adjustments has caused a great deal of frustration, as evidenced by the overwhelming feedback we've received. However, I believe such feedback is indicative of PvP's unprecedented popularity. As with our story quests and other PvE content, rest assured we'll do our utmost to make PvP in Final Fantasy XIV an experience everyone can continue to enjoy. End quote. And that's the end of that from Naoki Yoshida, the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. So to take apart this, it's clear to me, as somebody reading this, in my opinion, that PvP is incredibly popular, and quite rightfully so. In my own opinion, I've really enjoyed the PvP changes. Crystalline Conflict, amazing. The new series-based rewards are probably some of the best things ever as incentives. And honestly, the job actions have been made. Just like every job feels like it has something, near enough anyway, for the most part. Most jobs feel like they have a very powerful set of buttons, or a very iconic button. So in many ways, I think they've succeeded, but they've probably done so well with these changes that it's attracted a lot more attention, and now obviously the realization set in that there's a lot of demand for this stuff to be more balanced, and when they make small changes they end up having the biggest impact. So yeah, going forward I can imagine they'll put a lot more time and effort into PvP balancing and probably testing things a lot more frequently. But it was nice to see that Yoshi P did actually play the game, and a lot of players worldwide actually took screenshots of, oh my god, I'm in a match against Yoshi P. It's awesome to see that, it really is. And you never know who you're up against, but they do actually play their own game at Square Enix. It's not just like other games we could mention. And yeah, it's fantastic, absolutely amazing. So whilst they messed up a little bit with Black Mage this time, I don't think they'll make the same mistake again. Anyway, much love. Let me know what you think about the PvP changes, PvP in general. Are you enjoying it? Let me know below. I'm interested to read your comments, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.